Frank was the team's heartthrob. Fair-skinned and beautiful, delicate and cute. Everyone adored him, including me. 5 people on the team, and 4 of us were vying for his affection. But whenever I tried to talk to him, our captain, Ben, would cut me off. If I turned to look at him, Tom would sidestep to block my view. If I tried to sit next to him, Nate would snatch the seat with a grin. We were all rivals, so why was everyone ganging up on just me? District 9. It was part of the rear cradle zone, low infection rate, high safety factor. A fire flickered to life inside a small, abandoned house. In the quiet of the night, the only sound was the crackling of firewood. A soft, trembling voice broke the silence. It was Frank, shivering slightly. So cold. Could one of you guys grab me a blanket? His little face seemed pale from the chill, looking utterly pitiful. I shot to my feet instantly, but before I could take a single step, Ben, sitting right next to me, shot me a freezing glare. Is it your turn? Sit down. The sheer force of his presence, honed in bloody battles, was terrifying. I sank back down resentfully. I watched as Frank, who was furthest from me, took the blanket from Tom's hands. His fair face was nestled in the fluffy blue fabric. He looked like a small, innocent animal. He gave Tom a sweet smile. Thanks, Tom. In the firelight, his gentle eyes seemed to shimmer. God, he was cute. I couldn't help but stare. Suddenly, someone aggressively poked the fire, sending a jet of flame shooting up right in front of my face. Startled, I flinched back. I turned to see the culprit, Nate, smiling as if he were innocent as a lamb. I glared at him. What the hell was that? Leo, you shouldn't stare for too long. It's bad for your eyes. I'm just helping you out. Always smiling like that. You can't trust a guy who's always smiling. Nate might be the youngest, but he was a real piece of work. Sigh. This was hard. So damn hard. What could I do? Besides Frank, I couldn't win a fight against any of them. 5 people on the team, and 4 of us were all trying to win him over. I was in last place. The next day, we packed our bags and prepared to move out. I was right behind Frank, hoping to get into the back seat with him. But Nate slipped right in front of me, blocking my way. Frank, can I sit with you? He let his eyes droop, putting on his best sad puppy act. Frank was suddenly caught in the middle, his damp eyes darting between me and Nate. Finally, as if he'd made a monumental decision, he bit his lip. Leo, could you maybe sit up front? I had no choice but to climb into the passenger seat. From the driver's seat, Tom glanced at me as I got in and let out a cold, cryptic laugh. He was mocking me. I turned my head away and ignored him. From the back, the sound of Frank and Nate's cheerful chatter drifted forward. When Frank spoke, his soft voice had a hint of innocent charm. Just hearing it always managed to pull my attention. I turned my head, about to peek through the half-open partition to see what was going on back there. Just then, the vehicle swerved violently. In the jolt, the partition slammed shut, completely blocking the view between the front and back seats. I steadied myself and looked over at Tom in the driver's seat. He was staring straight ahead, his face blank. Sorry, my hand slipped. See? My rivals were getting more cunning by the day. I let out a cold snort of my own and turned to watch the bleak, dusty landscape whip past the window. It was on a day just like this, with yellow sand filling the sky, that we rescued Frank. After waking up, Frank temporarily stayed with our team. He was different, so kind and so strong. He was always eager to help out, even though he was usually clumsy. He'd smile and call me Leo. With tears in his eyes, he begged me to let him stay with the team. Faced with those brilliant, shining eyes, it was like a voice in my head was telling me, quick, say yes. I'd never felt anything like it before. This was love. So I spoke up, hoping they'd let him stay. My 3 teammates, who had all been busy with their own tasks, stopped in unison and stared at me. The atmosphere grew strangely tense. Even Nate, who was always smiling, had a cold look on his face. Leo, you always do things that piss people off. To be honest, none of my teammates were easy to get along with. Before I joined, I heard they'd gone through God knows how many healers. I didn't have much sway in convincing them of anything. Frank looked up at me, forcing a smile. It's okay, Leo. I'm already so happy just to have spent this time with you. I'm just a normal person. I can't really help you guys with anything. I'll leave. His eyes, usually so full of laughter, looked like they were about to shatter. For some reason, my breath hitched. My mind went blank. I can't let him go. I don't know if it was my persistence or if they were also won over by Frank's innocent kindness. My teammates finally gave in. I stared at Tom, my eyes wide with disbelief. You guys agree? He nodded. He lowered his gaze and stared at me for a few seconds. The lips of this usually cold, quiet man were pressed into a tight, unhappy line. I was already so excited I ran out the door to tell Frank the good news. And so, Frank became the team's logistics person. But before I even had a chance to digest my happiness, I realized that my teammates, who had initially been so cold to Frank, had also changed. I don't know when it started, but they began to gather around him too. Worse, they started to see me as a threat. Maybe because I had the most contact with Frank and we seemed to be the closest, they were worried I had a leg up. They were always, subtly or not so subtly, preventing me from spending time with him. After that, the number of times Frank called me Leo grew smaller and smaller. It was more Captain, Tom, Nate, and just like that, I had 3 new rivals. After a few hours of driving, we reached our destination. Otherworldly Rift, designation 179. A massive, violet-red vortex of ions was stretched between the mountains. Our mission was to enter the rift and locate its core. Ben adjusted his gear and spoke up. 179 is in a dormant state. Today's mission is to find the core's location and gather data. 2 people will go in with me, Nate and... He paused, then suddenly turned to look at Frank. Tom and Leo, who do you want to stay behind and keep you company? I froze. That's right. Frank didn't have any powers. He couldn't withstand the psychic corruption inside the rift. He'd naturally have to stay outside to provide support. If I stayed, then I could get some alone time with Frank. My eyes lit up at the thought. Could Tom stay? Unfortunately, Frank didn't hesitate for long before choosing Tom. He poked his head out of the car window, pumping his fist to cheer us on. Good luck. I'll be waiting for you to come back. Ben glanced down at me from his superior height. Keep up. That was definitely mockery. Behind me, Nate was grinning with undisguised schadenfreude. Leo, you got dumped again. I shoved past him, annoyed. Ben was more mature than me, Tom was more dependable, and Nate was a smoother talker. Compared to them, I had long since stopped being Frank's first choice. Inside the rift, the landscape was a beautiful, dream-like expanse of phantom flora. It was a world away from the red cliffs and yellow sands outside. Strange, dense vines swayed with the gentle breeze. We carefully avoided the plants. Following the readings on our scanner, we quickly found the rift's core. We only dared to mark its location from the outer perimeter and collect data. Because once you step into the core circle, it will be fully activated. And a rift's dormant and active states can be completely different. Some might become safer, while others could become extremely dangerous. Until the data was analyzed, no one could predict which it would be. The moment we began to retreat, disaster struck. The ground shook violently. The vines suddenly began to writhe madly, bursting from the soil. They came at us from all directions, a terrifying, overwhelming tide. My body froze in shock, too slow to react. A figure shot toward me. Ben grabbed me by the waist and dove into a fissure in the rock face. All I saw was a fleeting glimpse of Nate being swallowed by the vines. We hid in a narrow crevice in the mountain. Outside, we could hear the slithering of countless vines. The space was tight. He and I were forced to press close together. His hot breath fanned across my face. I turned my head away, uncomfortable, but my left hand touched something warm. The smell of blood. You're hurt? Ben's hand was still clamped on my waist. His deep voice rumbled. It's nothing. I fumbled around until I found the wound. As I breathed, my power began to flow. I'm one of the rare few with healing abilities. Unfortunately, my power level isn't very high, so each healing session takes a lot of time. I focused completely on controlling the output of my power. A large, warm hand came to rest on the back of my neck. Ben forced my head up. Huh? I blinked, confused. A wave of heat washed over my face again. Too slow. His eyes were dark and deep. His breath grew closer. This is dangerous. In a flash, I knew what he was about to do. I instantly raised my hand. I slapped it right over his face, blocking his advance. Don't even think about it, I said, furious. A muffled laugh came from behind my palm. Suddenly, I felt a hot, wet sensation slide across my hand. My heart jumped, and I snatched my hand back. Are you disgusting or page? The next second, his lips and tongue crushed mine. Nate was waiting for us at the exit of the rift. It seemed those vines hadn't given him much trouble. He was staring daggers at me. His eyes narrowed into a nasty glare. Leo, you get hurt? With that dead-eyed expression, he was actually kind of scary. I tried to walk around him. I'm not hurt. I didn't make it. He grabbed my chin, his fingers roughly smudging my lips. Oh, not hurt. Huh? Then why are they so red? I thought something bit you. At his words, I felt like a cat whose tail had just been stepped on. I slapped his hand away, flushing with anger and embarrassment. Bit my ass. Stop being a psycho. I turned and fled. I didn't see that after I ran. Nate flicked a blade of wind that shot straight for Ben. I didn't realize our captain had gotten so weak. A few slow-moving vines can actually hurt you? Damn you, Ben. I scrubbed the back of my hand furiously across my mouth. My tongue still felt numb. Ugh, what rotten luck. I only want to kiss a pretty boy who's soft and smells good. Like Frank. Who wants to kiss some rough, hard-bodied. Ugh. My power has a fatal bug. The deeper the physical contact with the person I'm healing, my power multiplies exponentially. Like holding hands, like kissing, like... Only Ben knew about this, because during one incredibly desperate mission, I threw caution to the wind and forced a kiss on him. The result? He was like a dog with a bone. He got hooked. Lost in my frustration, I had already exited the rift space. When we got back to camp, Frank was the first to greet us. He ran up to Ben, his cheeks flushed. That's great. You're all back safe, Captain. I was so worried about you. His deer-like eyes turned to me. My heart fluttered, and I was about to step forward. Nate moved to the side, completely blocking me. He started playing the victim. Frank, aren't you worried about me at all? I glared at the back of his head. That little brat. Full of nothing but schemes. Always cutting me off. Yellow sand buried most of the buildings. The ruins became our temporary camp under the night sky. I took a can of dinner from Frank. I immediately spotted a red burn mark on the base of his thumb. As if sensing my gaze, he quickly tried to hide it with his sleeve. But in his haste, he seemed to press on the wound. He let out a small cry of pain. I leaned in to check his hand. How'd you do that? I asked, concerned. As I spoke, my power activated. The wound healed at a visible rate. His big, deer-like eyes widened in amazement. I straightened up a little. I didn't let it show on my face, but inside, I was feeling a little smug. I was ready to receive Frank's praise. Frank, what did you add to the canned food? It tastes really unique. A voice cut in suddenly. It instantly stole Frank's attention. The ever-present specter of Nate. Frank's cute dimples appeared. I'm so glad you like it. I was worried I messed it up. I'm always so clumsy. I even burned my hand. Huh? You're hurt? It's nothing. I can handle a little pain. I stared blankly ahead, stabbing the mush in my can into an even mushier pulp. I took a bite. It was as disgusting as ever. What unique flavor. There was no special flavor. Paired with the happy little scene in front of me, I forced myself to finish the inedible dinner, and successfully managed to depress myself. As I rounded a corner, I slammed into a wall of muscle. I jumped back. I looked up and met Ben's deep eyes. What's with the angry face? He leaned forward, looking past me. His gaze shot through a gap in the ruined wall, and he let out a knowing, cold snort. It seemed I wasn't the only one unhappy with the harmonious scene back there. The thought instantly made me feel a little better. By the time I came back to my senses, we were already very close. He was practically looking down at me. I secretly stood on my tiptoes, warily trying to create some distance. A chuckle came from above me. Why so scared? It's not like I'm going to eat you. I pouted. You don't eat people, but you bite them. I wanted to leave, but my escape was blocked. He deliberately and maliciously leaned in closer, forcing me back 2 steps until I hit the wall. I frantically threw up my hands to block his chest. Ben had taken off his jacket and was only wearing a simple black t-shirt. The soft fabric was stretched taut over his pecs. That shape, and that feeling, it even bounced a little. I looked up in surprise and saw his teasing gaze. You? I snatched my hand back like I'd been burned. So what if you have dancing pecs? I secretly compared them to my own. My gloomy mood just got worse. I'm going to bed. Move. The hand I'd pulled back was caught and guided under the hem of his t-shirt. Huh? My eyes went wide. What kind of move was this? For a moment I was too shocked to react. I'm hurt. What? Hurt? Where? I asked instinctively, my hand patting around his stomach. Was this guy trying to show off his abs? But I really did feel a cut. But this wound, I resisted the urge to scratch another one onto him. I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Wow, that looks serious. A little longer and it might have scabbed over on its own. He stared at me, his eyes burning, his voice seductive. So heal me. I returned to my sleeping spot, mentally exhausted. The moment I sat down, Tom, who had been resting with his eyes closed, shot a cold glare at me. Did a dog piss on you? I hugged my sleeping bag and stared at him blankly. What dog? There wasn't even a blade of grass out here, let alone a dog. I sniffed. There really was a smell. Smoke. A faint, indistinct scent of smoke. It was unique. That's because the person who smoked it would roll a special plant into the tobacco, so it had a different scent than normal cigarettes. It must have rubbed off on me from Ben earlier. I looked at Tom, speechless. You're the dog, I thought, with a nose that sharp. I turned my back to lie down. A jacket came flying down over my head. Tom's words were as sharp as ever. Cover up. You stink. There wasn't much moisture in the air. After a night of sleep, my lips were dry and cracked. I licked them and thought I tasted blood. I watched Frank enthusiastically handing out breakfast to everyone. His cheeks were rosy, his lips moist and plump. He really was different. I ate my breakfast, which was even worse than last night's dinner. With every swallow, I couldn't help but lick my chapped lips. Nate, who was busy joking around with Frank, would occasionally shoot a glance my way. I bared my teeth at him. That little punk. Still trying to show off how close he was with Frank. The data feedback came in. Before us was the giant ion vortex. Scientific name: Serial Rift. Designation: 1 cult level, 4 high risk. Biological profile: in its active state, it releases 10-15 shadow beasts every 6 minutes, each accompanied by 3-5 black, corrosive vines. Current status: semi-active. The wind kicked up layer after layer of a yellow, sandy veil. I squinted, looking up at the violet-red vortex. Their appearance was known as the Red Cataclysm. It could happen on a quiet morning or during a neon-lit night. All over the world, countless spatial rifts of all sizes appeared without a sound. They were like giant, vertical pupils, staring down at a world that was about to be devastated. Countless monsters poured out of the rifts, swallowing one city after another. Those who survived the monsters' claws couldn't escape the psychic corruption they brought. Eventually, they would all be assimilated and turned into monsters. At the same time, a strange yellow sand began to spread, devouring oases, raising temperatures, and drying up water sources. Survival became increasingly difficult. The emergence of people with abilities was like a ray of light in the darkness. Only then did we begin to have the power to resist. Survivors established bases. They began to defend their homes and fight back against the monster invasions. They extracted resources for survival from low-risk otherworlds, destroyed by it but also sustained by it. Every single person who was still alive today was incredibly lucky. Looking at the backs of my 3 teammates in the swirling sand, I knew every one of them was strong. An S-class ability user could destroy a Class 3 rift on their own, and I was just a B-class healer. On every mission, I told myself, I absolutely cannot be the one to drag them down. I dragged a blood-soaked Tom into a pile of rubble. I activated the quantum shield. Under the monster's attacks, the shield wouldn't last long. My power surged wildly. But Tom stopped me. He suddenly reached out and cupped my face. Even though his hands were trembling from exhaustion, his voice was still calm and cold. When the shield goes down, I'll clear a path for you. You run east, don't stop, and don't look back. Once you're out of the core circle, you'll be safe, understand? I opened my mouth, but choked on a mouthful of blood. Couldn't make a sound. In Tom's dark eyes, I saw my own reflection. My eyes were bloodshot, and my mouth and nose were a mangled, bleeding mess from the monster's corrosive acid. But I knew Tom's condition was far worse than mine. A fatal wound. He'd taken it to cover for me. Although healers were always the ones to be protected in an ability team, no one ever wanted to see a teammate get hurt for them. Tom was gravely injured. As his injuries worsened, his powers would weaken, and the psychic corruption would rapidly invade his mind. We had been on many missions together, faced death many times. We had perfect synergy and understood each other completely. So he knew my powers were useless against such severe psychic corruption and injuries. He knew I couldn't do it. My eyes welled up, my nose stung, and a sharp pain shot through my heart. I took 2 harsh, ragged breaths. An immense rage followed. I shoved him down hard. Wiping away a smear of blood, I snarled, I told you I never dragged the team down. The man who rarely showed emotion finally had a change in expression. As he stared at me in shock, I yanked down his pants. Tom's throat bobbed. His voice sounded unsteady. You? I swung myself on top of him and slapped him across the face. Shut up. Then I leaned down and bit his lips. Teeth clashed against teeth and blood mixed with blood. The light of my power instantly flared. Tom's voice came through clenched teeth. That's enough. I was still holding his leg, a look of grim determination on my face. Are you sure? I'm grossed out by this too. But in a life or death situation, we can't be picky. We're both guys, just pretend a dog bit you. I patted his muscular thigh, trying to comfort him. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. Tom coughed up a mouthful of blood. He pulled his leg back and unsteadily yanked his pants up. I said, I don't need it. The words seemed forced from between his gritted teeth. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He was so hard, I really couldn't bite down. Just then, the world spun. Our positions were reversed. A frantic assault of bites and kisses followed. Invading, devouring. Saliva mixed with blood trickled down. Too much to swallow. As the shield grew dimmer, the air grew more chaotic. After placing all the quantum bombs, I pressed the confirmation command. Tom grabbed me and we sprinted out of the core circle. He threw himself on top of me as we hit the ground. 30 seconds later, the monster's howls were drowned out by a massive wave of heat. The aftershock made me cough up a mouthful of blood. Tom, lying on top of me, had shielded me from most of the damage. He frantically pulled me out from under him. After tensely confirming I was still breathing, he quickly regained his composure. In the distance, we heard 2 massive explosions. Tom and I looked at each other. It seemed Ben and Nate had succeeded as well. When I saw Nate, I almost started crying. The usually dashing guy didn't have a single uninjured patch of skin on him. Even though the kid was annoying as hell all the time, but seeing the stark white bone exposed in his arm, I couldn't bear it and squeezed my eyes shut. Little specks of light began to glow. Thankfully, it wasn't a fatal wound. I could at least suppress the injury for him. For once, Nate didn't have a snarky comeback. A few strands of black hair fell over his eyes, and his voice was surprisingly gentle.
Leo, I'm okay.
I'm not gonna die. Ben didn't look much better. He was the captain. Always the most reliable, the calmest, the most resolute person. Except for the biting. Perhaps sensing my gaze, He gave me a reassuring look. Ben stared at the space which was beginning to crack. His voice was hoarse. This place will collapse in 10 minutes. We need to retreat now. I was dreaming. Bizarre scenes flashed past my eyes. Monsters, yellow sand, all coming at me like shattered pieces of a mirror. Suddenly I saw Nate, pouting with a sour look on his face. Why don't I get a kiss? Why did you hide it from me? Leo, why? He looked exactly like some jilted lover from an old drama. It was terrifying. Next was Tom with his icy, handsome face. He just whipped off his pants and said coldly, I regret it. You can do it. I was so scared I turned and ran and crashed right into Ben's arms, pressed against his bulging chest. Thump, thump. He was whispering in my ear, do you like it, baby? Ah! It scared the soul right out of me. Finally, it all faded away. Only Frank was left, standing in a white void, looking at me. He smiled, showing his dimples, and called out sweetly, Leo. Finally, a normal person. I ran toward him, overjoyed. But the moment I touched him, countless black tentacles erupted from behind Frank, wrapping around me, pulling tighter and tighter. Before my vision went dark, I saw his sweet smile twist into something grotesque. A bloody maw split open on his face, and a distorted, raspy voice hissed. Ah! I woke up with a jolt. I stared blankly at the familiar ceiling. I wiped away a cold sweat, my heart still pounding. A nightmare. A complete and utter nightmare. I don't even know how I got back to the base. I only remember that, as soon as I got out of the rift, I was so exhausted I passed out. I guess a B-class body really can't compare to theirs. While I was unconscious, I thought I heard Frank's voice. He sounded so anxious he was on the verge of tears. Is Leo okay? I couldn't help but sigh. He really was a little angel. Nothing like the one in my dream. What a nightmare. I went downstairs, but I didn't see my teammates. Just as I was wondering where they were, I saw them all walk in the door together. Frank was walking in front. The other three were following behind him. Holy crap. Did they go on a date while I was unconscious? Frank walked over to me, looking happy. Leo, you're awake. I nodded. Frank continued, that's great. I have some good news to tell you too. Looking at his excited face, I asked curiously, what good news? I've awakened my abilities. Just like you, Leo. I'm a healer too. A team is only ever assigned one healer. I had submitted countless reports, requesting a transfer. Assigning a B-class healer to an all S-class team was like starting the game on Hell's hard mode. Fortunately, after many missions, we had built up a sense of trust. And my power had that huge bug. I'd already kissed 2 of my rivals. One of them even took his pants off. Takes all kinds, I guess. Luckily, my teammates were broad-minded. They didn't report me for harassment. So the thought of possibly changing teams, I couldn't quite name the sour feeling that welled up inside me. And now Frank had awakened. As an A-class healer. In an era where healers were scarce, he was undoubtedly a valuable resource. He was more qualified than me to be the 9th Squad's healer. Frank looked at me cautiously and said in a small voice, Leo, I really hope you can stay on the team too, but a team isn't allowed to have 2 healers. He gathered his courage and continued, if you agree to step down, I can become the 9th Squad's healer. After all, compared to a B-class healer, an A-class one is stronger, can play a bigger role, and can protect everyone better. Leo, can you do this for me? I've always wanted to be able to help everyone. Frank looked at me with tears in his eyes, just like when he had begged me to let him stay. Now he was begging me to leave. Those eyes were just as beautiful as before, shimmering and bright, as if they could pull you into a vortex. That voice in my head appeared again. Say yes to him. Just like before, say yes to him. But my heart seemed to be resisting. Just like how I could always turn to my teammates for help when I was in trouble, I subconsciously looked at them. But this time I got no response. Even the usually cheerful Nate had his eyes lowered, his expression unreadable. They were so cold. I bit my lip, a wave of unaccustomed panic washing over me. Why did my heart ache so much? Couldn't sleep. For someone who usually passes out the second his head hits the pillow, this was torture. I tossed and turned and tossed. I decided to go for a walk downstairs. But the second I opened the door, a figure was standing ramrod straight right outside. It scared what little sleepiness I had left right out of me. I cursed, "Nate, what the hell are you doing? Playing night watchman in the middle of the night?" Nate swayed and lifted his head, a thick wave of alcohol hitting me. "Leo, you must be happy." The smell of booze made me frown. "How much did you drink?" Alcohol and tobacco were luxuries in this day and age. But for top-tier ability users, they weren't a big deal. "You must be so happy. Happy you can finally get rid of us." Nate's swaying body pitched toward me. I quickly grabbed him to keep him from falling. "I don't know what you're rambling about." "Go back to your room," I said, annoyed. Nate, who had been nuzzling my neck, suddenly lifted his head and stared at me intently. "You submitted all those transfer requests behind our backs. You think I didn't know?" By the end, he sounded genuinely hurt. "You even complained about me, said I was too talkative and noisy." I guiltily avoided his gaze. Damn that Central Bureau. So much for anonymous and confidential. I stammered out a defense. "That was a long time ago." Nate snorted, wrapping his arms around me, refusing to let go. "What about now? You're always so impatient with me. Any random person can grab your attention." "What are you talking about? There are no random people." "Yes, there are." "Leo, do you hate me?" He looked at me with watery eyes. He looked as pitiful as could be. It was enough to soften my heart. I mumbled, embarrassed, "No, I don't hate you." "Then you like me." "Like you my ass. Get lost." This kid was pushing his luck. "No, I'm sleeping here tonight." "The hell you are." Scram. Through the crack in the slightly ajar door, the entire conversation drifted out. Leaning against the wall, Tom let out a contemptuous sneer. "So stupid. He actually believes the S-class I'm drunk act." The next morning, the notice about the change in the 9th Squad's healer came through. Frank was now the healer for the 9th Squad, and I was being transferred. Before the transfer, I was required to act as a senior mentor and guide Frank on combat experience. So, whether I stayed or left was never up to me. My captain, as if he'd expected this all along, just coldly dismissed the notification and calmly announced the next mission. Nate, who had been clinging to me and whining just last night, now wore a completely indifferent expression. Tom, who was never talkative to begin with, was even more silent. They looked like they didn't care. They didn't care if I was replaced. The moment that thought surfaced, my throat tightened. I fought down the sour feeling rising in my chest, a relentless, throbbing ache. Frank, his face beaming with joy, fluttered around his new teammates. He bounced over to me like a happy little magpie. "I'm so happy, Leo. I can finally help everyone and become someone strong." I should have congratulated him. After all, I liked him so much. I always said yes to whatever he asked. But I don't know why. Looking at his sparkling eyes, I couldn't feel a single ounce of joy. I used to love his smiling eyes the most. "It hurts." A sudden, sharp pain shot through my head. I forced a smile. "Yeah. Congratulations." This was Frank's first mission as part of the 9th Squad, and I was left outside. Our positions had been swapped. Faced with this arrangement, I voiced my objection. "I don't agree. This is Frank's first time in a rift. He lacks experience. Since I'm his combat advisor, I should be in there with him." At my protest, Frank's brow furrowed in distress. "Leo, don't you trust my abilities? I'm very strong, I'm a class. Besides, this was the captain's arrangement. I trust that the captain wouldn't make a decision like this lightly." He then looked pleadingly at Ben. Ben didn't even lift his head. He just threw out a cold, sharp line. "That's an order, Leo. An order, an order. Always an order." I bit my lip and sat down, fuming. I looked at them, a picture of perfect harmony. I felt wronged and furious. Frank used to be so kind and cute, but now he was like a different person. At that thought, my head throbbed again. I took a breath. A sense of unease settled in my gut. I stared at their retreating backs, with Frank in the middle, perfectly protected. Son of a bitch. I really have been left behind. So this is what it feels like to be on the outside. I don't like it one bit. I still prefer fighting side by side with my teammates. Ben is a master strategist. Nate is a strong solo combatant. And Tom and I have always had perfect synergy. The four of us have faced all kinds of dangers. We were willing to trust our teammates with our lives. Every time we barely scraped by, the thought made my chest ache even more. I rubbed my nose and cursed myself. You're a grown man, what's with all this self-pity? I'm not about to cry. I don't give a damn about them. Sigh. But where else am I going to find teammates who don't report me for harassment after I kiss them? Thinking about it now, they were pretty tolerant. Huh? But why did they change all of a sudden? A man's heart is as fickle as a changing mask. In the middle of the night, I heard a noise. I sat up, instantly alert. Someone's here. Are they out already? I peeked out from behind cover. I saw a figure stumbling toward me. My eyes went wide. It was Frank. I rushed over to him. He was a complete mess. When he saw me, he burst into tears, his whole body trembling. He was clearly terrified. My heart jumped. The unease grew stronger. Frank, what's wrong? What happened? His voice was shaking, and it sent a chill down my spine. They're dead. Leo, it was so scary. So dangerous. The monsters inside are about to get out. Let's run. Let's just run away. Please. I forced myself to stay calm. Explain clearly. What do you mean they're dead? What did you encounter? Frank looked as if he was reliving some horrifying memory, his teeth chattering. I don't know anything, they just died, don't worry about them, Leo, let's just run. Take me with you. You like me the most, right? You'll listen to me, won't you? He gripped my hand tightly and stared into my eyes. That beautiful, shimmering light was in his gaze again. Pain. A sharp, piercing pain shot through my head again. It felt like something inside my mind shattered. In an instant, I think I understood something. Everything that had happened flashed through my mind. I grabbed him furiously by the collar. You've been using suggestions on me. What did you do to me? Frank's eyes widened in disbelief. How did it wear off? That's impossible. I threw him to the ground. I felt like a complete idiot. But right now, I had more important things to do. I had to go in and find them. I had to see them dead or alive. I looked down at my hands. It hurt so much. They were a bloody mess, the tips of my fingers showing bone. I looked up dazedly. I stared at the figures cocooned in light. I'd managed to tear a small opening. I reached out again. I grabbed a silvery thread and pulled. Ah, pain. Touching the threads was like having your soul gnawed and ground away. I started mumbling, more to myself than anyone else. It hurts so much. If you don't wake up, I'm not going to save you, Ben. One by one, the threads were torn away, mixed with my numb, delirious whispers. It hurts. Someone save me. Tom. Save me. Mom. It hurts so much. Nate, I don't want to save you anymore. I don't. It devolved into crazed, mindless screaming. Blood ran down my arms and pooled on the ground. The wounds on my hands spread up my arms, my skin cracking and splitting. Wah! Ben, I'm not saving you guys anymore. It hurts so much. It hurts so much, wah. I looked at the figures inside the cocoons. Thud. My hands finally dropped uselessly to my sides. Blood. Drip. Drip. I slowly closed my eyes. I'm sorry, I mumbled. With that, my consciousness faded, and I fell forward. At the same time, the cocoons shattered. From within the burst of light, a pair of strong arms reached out and firmly caught the falling figure. Ben crushed the body to his chest, his voice a choked sob. I'm here, my love. I'm here. When I woke up, the first words out of my mouth were, it hurts so much. Nate squeezed his eyes shut, a tear rolling down his cheek. He carefully and preciously pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Tom was carefully changing my bandages, but his hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked at Ben, who was standing outside the door, and asked, why don't you come in? He stood up straight, shaking off a shower of cigarette ash. For a long time, no one spoke. I couldn't hold it in any longer. Don't you guys have anything to say to me? What happened to you? What was that cocoon and why were you trapped inside? Ben looked like he was reliving something painful. He swallowed, a slight tremor in his voice. It was a mutated rift. Can trap people in an illusion instantly. That's the cocoon. But healers with strong psychic power are immune. Everything you did, we saw it all. I blinked in surprise. Could even trap S-class users? How long were we in there? 20 minutes, Tom said softly. What? I felt like I was in there for days. Nate leaned in, clinging to me. I'm sorry, it's all our fault. We were just going to use it to scare Frank, to make you see his true colors and break his hypnosis. But then we ran into a mutated rift and got trapped for real, and you had to go through so much pain. Nate couldn't bring himself to remember anymore, terrified of the helplessness, the rage, the heart-wrenching agony he felt inside the cocoon, knowing he almost lost the most important person in his life. My eyes widened in shock. You knew? When was I hypnotized by Frank? Nate sighed. From the first moment you saw him. What? Wait, what is going on? Tom spoke up. He's a hypnosis-type healer. It's a very special ability. He can place a mental imprint on people to manipulate them. You were his target. He faked his identity to get close to you and eventually replace you on the 9th squad. It's his usual tactic. I was confused. If you all knew, why didn't you just tell me and kick him out? Tom shook his head. A mental imprint is tricky. Unless he releases it himself or the hypnotized person sees through it on their own, any outside interference will only make the imprint stronger. He paused for a moment. We didn't want to see you with that guy on your mind forever, so we planned for you to figure it out yourself. We never expected. Tom couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence. So it was all a setup. It dawned on me. So you guys never even liked him? I thought. Before I could finish, 3 pairs of eyes shot daggers at me. I trailed off sheepishly. I quickly changed the subject. So where's Frank? A flash of ruthlessness crossed Ben's eyes. We handed him over to his previous team. He got their captain and healer killed. It won't end well for him.
Ok, fine.
In the end, it was my own weakness that got me hypnotized. Sure enough, being with S-class teammates is always hard mode. Nate suddenly became thoughtful. So, I get why you had to kiss Ben, and I guess I understand about Tom, but before he could finish, Ben cut him off with a cold laugh, his eyes fixed on me. Baby, you've touched my chest, you've kissed my mouth. Isn't it obvious I'm the one you like? Tom had somehow appeared behind me, his arms circling my waist. Are you going to take off my pants and then not take responsibility? Nate's face darkened as he demanded. What kisses? What pants? Leo, what have you been doing behind my back? My head was starting to spin. But then a thought occurred to me. What am I worried about? Shouldn't they be the ones who are worried? I let a small smile play on my lips. The one I like is, of course. I looked at the 3 pairs of expectant eyes. As for who I like, the days are long. We can take our time figuring that out.